is working as a chef. I worked in the UK, I worked in France and Australia. After working as a chef for a number of years, I went into management, and for about 3 years I ran a pub in the UK, and then we moved with my wife to Australia. Not long after moving to Australia, I set up a recruitment company, and the recruitment company has now been going for 16 years. And we started recruiting for the cruise line industry in 1998, and we now recruit through Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore and Sri Lanka. I think Sri Lanka came up. I knew a Sri Lankan gentleman in Australia who was the executive chef at Parliament House in Queensland, and just came up in conversation. You know, he's a great chef, and came up in conversation. You know, have you been to Sri Lanka? Why don't you have a look at it? And the timing was right as well. I mean, that's often very important. You know, that Sri Lanka for a long time had troubles at home. Those troubles had come to a conclusion as such, and the time was right to come and have a look at Sri Lanka and see what Sri Lanka had to offer. We first came to Sri Lanka, I think it was about 2009, 2010, I can't remember the exact dates. Just really to get a feel for the country, the levels of service, which are very high, they're excellent. And obviously on board a ship, safety is very important, so we needed to determine that the English language was to a standard that would allow the crew members to also take part in the safety activities. I think we didn't actually take our first people from Sri Lanka till 2012. And as with all new countries, we only take a few at first, and then we grow from there. We're very mindful that it's a very new environment for the crew, and we want to make sure that they are able to integrate with the other 70 or so different nationalities on board. So we took a few people, saw how they went, and then it wasn't until really last year that we began to increase the number of people that we recruited, and yet we were still only recruiting the culinary positions, chefs and cooks and other kitchen staff. And then because they've done so well, we're now expanding into other opportunities. So this year we've moved into the beverage service positions, some food service roles and some housekeeping roles. So we're finding as we come here that the service standards in the hotels and it's just everywhere really are very high in Sri Lanka. The people have naturally happy, calm, outgoing approaches to everything. They don't they never seem to get upset about anything really. So our guests are obviously very important to us, so we need people on board that can look after our guests, and some of our guests can be quite demanding, there's no doubt about that, and so our crew need to have the right attitude as well, and we're finding that in Sri Lanka. You know, if a guest has a complaint, it's not personal, it's just they're not happy with something, and Sri Lankan crew are able to understand that, work within that, and they flourish on board the ship. So everybody's very happy with the crew that we have on board. Before we go into a new country, we we make contact with local companies, met with somebody from the Bureau of Overseas Labour. So we had a few meetings, but prior to coming to Sri Lanka, we were trying to identify organisations that could assist us. And we go and talk to people from those organisations, and you make a decision based upon the facilities that an organisation has, the people in charge, a number of different factors, I suppose, and Winstone was one of those companies that we came to see. We were impressed with the facilities, the people in charge, simple things, I suppose, like hygiene. Hygiene is very, very important on ships, so that it was nice and clean, and it also worked well together because Winstone is a training organisation, and they're training people to work in industry, and if they can go to their alumni after they've worked in industry for a couple of years, maybe a little bit longer, and say, okay, we've got this opportunity with a cruise line, is that something you'd be interested in? So it kind of worked well for all of us. Winstone wasn't the only company that we spoke with, but we liked the attitude and the goals that Winstone had as well. I mean, we share very similar goals, I suppose, and when you have a clear goal, it makes things very simple. And my goal, and the same with Winstone, is that our goal is to prepare people to find better opportunities, and these are opportunities that help their family achieve the family goals, whether that's educating a young child, whether that's building or buying a bigger house, or perhaps if somebody needs some expensive healthcare. There's a lot of reasons why people work on ships. Generally though, it's to create a better life for themselves and their family. And that's what we do when we recruit people to work into the cruise industry. Offers them opportunities that they couldn't necessarily get in their home country. Yeah, I'm very happy with the ethics, the values, the standards of Winstone. They have some wonderful training facilities. Jagat, Annie, Auntie are just amazing people to work with. They're always cheerful, always very happy. They make me work very hard though, but that's okay, that's what I'm here to do. They look after me. I call her Auntie, she's like my mother, she's very, very friendly. Obviously much younger than my mother. The whole team here seem to come together really well, and they're like cogs in a machine, they all work together very well. We really don't have any challenges in the operation. It does, works very smoothly. Every country is different. It starts with the culture of the people. Not every country has the same culture. So let's take Australia, where I live, for example. The crew that we recruit from Australia are generally looking for an adventure rather than a life-changing opportunity. Australians love to travel, and this is a way for them to travel and earn money as well. Sri Lanka, obviously, it's an opportunity that will enhance their career and kick some goals for their family. Malaysia is kind of in the middle. Malaysians like to travel, but they also like to earn some money as well, so it kind of works for them. They're quite adventurous people. In China, it's a little bit different. There's the culture in China with the a long time they had a single child policy, so they love the adventure of the travel, they love to earn the money, but they're very close to their family, and being an only child, often they'll only do 2 or 3 contracts because their mum and dad want them to come back home, settle down, have their own family. So every country's a little bit different. Japan, they love to travel. I think they travel more than the Australians. So for them it's an adventure as well. Okay, standards. Well, I would think that Sri Lanka has the highest service standards of anywhere that we recruit, naturally. Malaysia is pretty close. I don't really want to rank countries. I suppose, the Japanese, amazing customer service, amazing people, very polite, very friendly. Not perhaps quite as good with English language, but they're pretty good still. The service standards in Sri Lanka, I don't know what you could do better in many respects. People here are so kind, and they always say hello, and they always treat you with this beautiful smile, and what more could anybody ask for? And also I think you have the advantage here that you have a range of cuisines. It's not, you don't come to Sri Lanka and only get offered Sri Lankan food, which everybody will tell you I love Sri Lankan food. But you get international food, Indian food, you've eaten Chinese, Japanese restaurants, great Italian restaurants, and I think it's that sheer diversity which, from a culinary perspective, makes it a great place to recruit. We only wish that you had the same size population as India or China, then we could recruit more people. Of course, there'd be nowhere to live, but it's still. I suppose Sri Lanka will naturally improve anyway. As the country develops the economy and people become more affluent, it will naturally improve. Wages will increase, and I think productivity is probably the greatest area for improvement. But that will happen naturally. As wages increase, the number of employees will decrease, and they'll ask to be more productive. But in terms of the hospitality operations, you've got a lot more competition coming in with new hotels being built, and I think that competition naturally helps to improve product offerings, skills. And every time the bar gets higher, as the country reaches that, then the bar moves up again. Facilities on board the vessels. Our business is only as good as our crew, so we need to look after the crew whilst they're looking after our guests. That's probably one of the most important things. So we have somebody in charge of the crew called a people and performance manager, and they help them grow and develop their careers. But career aside, everybody needs to relax. So we have a crew bar and crew entertainment area where the crew can gather after they've finished work and relax and enjoy themselves. And they have karaoke nights and bingo nights and different entertainment in the evenings. There's an internet cafe so they can keep in contact with their families, which is really important. A crew deck as well, so the crew can go out onto the deck and relax. The ships are obviously always on the move. They pull into port maybe 6-7 o'clock in the morning. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're ready to depart again. Now, the ship's in port, a lot of the guests get off the ship, and if the crew are off duty, they're allowed to get off the ship, go into port and explore the destination, wherever that is. Sydney, New Zealand, Fiji, Vanuatu, wherever the ship is, they're allowed to go and explore, which is quite exciting too. This is probably the 4th batch, and it's certainly the largest in terms of diversity of positions. And look, we'll come back to Sri Lanka again in January. Mightn't just be the 4th batch, because we might be the 4th or the 5th batch. I'm not entirely sure. But I would think that the positions will continue to expand. I think the quality of the candidates here, their attitude, the fact that they're outgoing, friendly, means that you'll see other cruise lines come to Sri Lanka to recruit as well. And I know other cruise lines have been here before, but I think you'll see an increase in activity. On this trip, I'm hoping to recruit about 100 people. You don't want to take everybody from Sri Lanka, otherwise there's nobody to look after your beautiful hotels. But yeah, about 100 people on this trip. In Sri Lanka, not too many females come to interview, but we're an equal opportunity employer. So on this particular trip so far, I've recruited 2 females, but whatever the gender, they're hired based upon merit, and obviously because cabins are shared, we need to be able to have availability for the different genders, but I'm definitely looking for more female crew from Sri Lanka. When we first came to Sri Lanka, we really only looked for entry-level crew, so cooks that were going in at an entry level. But as the cruise lines have become aware of the amazing skills that Sri Lankan chefs have, and the attitude, and it's a package, it's definitely a package. We've grown now, and we're taking chef de parties, sous chefs, demi chefs, so pretty much all levels. Even this morning I was contacted by Denzel Prasanna, who's a pastry chef de party on the Golden Princess. He checks in with me from time to time, makes sure everything's okay. He's very good at recommending new crew, possible crew that are in Sri Lanka to me as well, and then he follows up and says, how did your interview go with so and so and so? So he's very proactive, and I think that's something that is very nice about Sri Lanka, is that, okay, I've got this opportunity, who else could I recommend? I think that's really nice. It says something about the culture of the people, that they're looking out for their friends and relatives as well.